They buried an empty coffin today, but the Adebanjo family secrets won't stay buried. A billionaire's fake death, a pastor's deadly blackmail, a wife's curse that started it all. Subscribe now before the truth sinks. The rain fell in relentless sheets over Ikoyi Cemetery, turning the manicured lawns into a moody quagmire beneath hundreds of polished dress shoes. Black umbrellas formed a dark canopy over the assembled mourners, their faces arranged in appropriately somber expressions for the cameras. From my position near the empty grave, I counted three state governors, two federal ministers, and nearly every A-list Nollywood actor pretending they'd known Chief Adebanjo personally. They buried an empty coffin that Tuesday afternoon. I watched through my black lace veil as the pallbearers struggled with the suspiciously light casket, their muscles straining against nothing. The performance was nearly convincing, nearly. Bimpy, Chief's second wife, threw herself onto the coffin with enough dramatic flair to earn a Best Actress award, her theatrical wails drowning out the actual priest's droning eulogy. I didn't cry, not because I was incapable of grief, but because I refused to perform for the vultures circling our family tragedy. Let them whisper about the cold first wife. I had more pressing concerns than mourning a man who was currently sipping Dom Perignon in a Port Harcourt penthouse with his latest mistress. The mega church pastor droned on about heavenly rewards while discreetly checking his diamond encrusted Rolex. The hypocrisy would have been amusing if it weren't so predictable. Chief had purchased this particular man of God last year after that unfortunate paternity scandal involving three choir members, and now the so called reverend preached about morality with my husband's blood money lining his silk pockets. A familiar hand grasped my elbow. Tunde, Chief's longtime head of security, leaned in close enough that I could smell the peppermint chewing gum he used to mask his whiskey breath. Madam, the car is ready when you are. His fingers trembled slightly against my arm. I wondered if he knew about the USB drive concealed within the single white rose I tossed into the grave. My eyes swept across the faces surrounding the gravesite. My daughter Temi stood rigid near the coffin, her sharp eyes missing nothing beneath her simple black head wrap. Good. She would need that discernment in the coming days. Across from her, Chief's brother Yemi dabbed at dry eyes with a monogrammed handkerchief, already calculating his percentage of the inheritance. And at the very back, half concealed behind a marble obelisk, stood a lone figure in a hooded raincoat, the only person here who truly grieved. The reception at the Adebanjo estate was worse than the funeral. Politicians jockeyed for position near the will executor, relatives picked at catered finger foods while mentally calculating their inheritance shares, and Bimp held court in the main sitting room, already mentally redecorating in her preferred gaudy gold color scheme. I slipped upstairs to Chief's private study. The room still carried his scent, Cuban cigars, expensive cologne, and the unmistakable aroma of arrogance. From the window, I watched the last news vans pack up their equipment. They'd gotten their footage of the grieving widow, the lavish gold trimmed casket, the famous mourners. None had questioned why the family hadn't viewed the body. The mahogany desk drawer slid open with a familiar soft click. Inside lay the collection I'd amassed over 25 years of marriage. Bank statements, incriminating photographs, voice recordings, all neatly organized and dated. The USB from the grave would join them soon enough. Temi entered without knocking, her heel sinking into the Persian rug. "They are asking for you downstairs." Her voice carried the same controlled calm I'd perfected over decades. "Let them wait." I turned from the window. "Did you review the accounts as I asked?" She nodded, her expression grim. $20 million missing in the last quarter alone, all routed through New Life Ministries and its subsidiaries. I wasn't surprised. Chief had always been generous when it came to covering his sins. And the other matter? Temi hesitated before speaking. "The security archives from December 12th have been erased, but I found this." She placed a faded Polaroid on the desk. The image showed Chief and three men I recognized from the current presidential cabinet standing on a private dock at night. Behind them, something large and wrapped in black plastic was being loaded onto a waiting boat. The timestamp in the corner read December 12th, 1999. I slipped the photograph into my pocket. "Clear my schedule tomorrow. We're paying Pastor Nike a visit." The hidden shrine smelled of camwood powder and burning herbs, the thick smoke stinging my eyes as I knelt on the woven palm mat. The old babalawo moved with deliberate precision, arranging kola nuts and alligator pepper around the central clay pot, his wrinkled hand steady despite his advanced age. "You understand the weight of what you request, my daughter?" His voice rasped like dry leaves underfoot. "This medicine cuts both ways. It may heal your heart even as it poisons his." I placed the thick envelope stuffed with Naira notes on the low altar. "I understand perfectly." The old priest sighed but accepted the payment. From his cracked leather pouch, he withdrew a small effigy carved from Iroko wood. The craftsmanship was disturbingly accurate. Every detail from Chief's distinctive jawline to the slight crook in his nose rendered in perfect miniature. "Bring his personal item," the priest instructed. I opened my beaded handbag and removed Chief's favorite platinum cufflinks, the ones I'd gifted him on our 10th anniversary, the ones he'd been wearing when he told me about Bimpi's pregnancy. The ritual began at the witching hour. The babalawos chanting rose and fell in ancient Yoruba cadences as he bound the cufflinks to the wooden effigy with crimson thread. My responses came automatically, though my mind wandered to my first meeting with Chief at University of Lagos all those years ago. He'd been so dashing in his crisp white linen shirt, so full of honeyed promises and grand dreams. The sacred fire flared suddenly, sending shadows dancing across the mud walls like restless spirits. The priest's chanting grew more urgent as he poured a dark, viscous liquid over the bound effigy. The scent of burning herbs grew overpowering, coating my tongue with their bitter essence. "Now speak your will," he commanded. I leaned forward until my lips nearly brushed the wooden figure's ear. "Make him feel what I felt," I whispered. "Let every betrayal return to him threefold. Let his money turn to dust in his hands. Let his women laugh behind his back at his inadequacies." The babalawo's eyes widened slightly at my venom, but he continued the ritual without comment. When he placed the effigy into the clay pot, I added a lock of my own hair, dark strands now streaked with silver. "A final warning," the old man said as the flames consumed our handiwork. "This medicine is like palm wine. It ferments with time. The results may not be what you expect." I left before dawn, the taste of bitter herbs lingering on my tongue. The first sign came 3 days later when Chief's brand new Mercedes Maybach stalled during a crucial meeting with Chinese investors. By week's end, two of his secret offshore accounts had been frozen in an international money laundering investigation. But the true satisfaction came exactly 1 month later when Bimpe's Instagram post accidentally revealed her 22-year-old lover. The internet exploded with memes mocking Chief's humiliation. I allowed myself exactly one small private smile before returning to work. Temi found me in the orchid garden that evening, the sunset painting the Lagos skyline in shades of burnt orange and violet. You look pleased, she observed, handing me a glass of chilled white wine. The small pleasures of life, I replied, watching a hummingbird dart between blossoms. She settled into the adjacent wicker chair, silent for a long moment. I had lunch with Auntie Bola today. I stiffened imperceptibly. Chief's elder sister had always been far too observant for comfort. And she asked pointed questions about your whereabouts last month, mentioned something about a renowned babalawo near Abeokuta. Temi's gaze held knowing intensity. She's been consulting one herself. The wine turned sour in my mouth. So Bimpe wasn't the only snake in our garden. Thank you for telling me. That night, I reviewed the security footage from Chief's study. There, clear as day, was Auntie Bola burning something in our backyard at 3:17 a.m. The timestamp matched exactly when Chief's private jet had made its emergency landing in Abuja. The game had changed. No matter, I'd been preparing for this eventuality since my honeymoon. From my jewelry box, I retrieved the small vial hidden beneath the false bottom. The powder inside had dwindled to perhaps 3 doses, but it would suffice. Tomorrow morning's tea would taste particularly bitter for Auntie Bola. Let the old witch try her counter juju now. The Lagos night skyline glittered through floor to ceiling windows as Temi Adebanjo's manicured fingers flew across her keyboard. The glow of 3 monitors reflected in her sharp brown eyes, one tracking stock prices, another decrypting files, the third displaying a live feed of her father's Port Harcourt penthouse. Meet Temi Adebanjo, the only person in Nigeria who could outmaneuver her father at his own game. While Chief played his dirty politics, she quietly kept Adebanjo Holdings from collapsing under the weight of his excesses. But tonight marked a turning point. No more cleaning up after him. Tonight, she became the architect of his downfall. The login screen for Adebanjo Holdings mainframe dissolved under her keystrokes. Temi exhaled through her nose as the transaction history loaded. There it was. $20 million transferred to New Life Megachurch dated the day of Chief's supposed death. She leaned back in her ergonomic chair, lips twisting in a humorless smile. So this was where the family's missing millions had gone. Not to offshore accounts as she'd suspected, but to line the pockets of that charlatan pastor and her father's latest mistress. Temi copied the files to a sleek USB drive, labeling it simply for mother. Her fingers hesitated over another folder. Lagos, December 12th, 1999. Before she could open it, her phone vibrated with an incoming call. The screen flashed, Daddy Dearest. She let it ring 3 times before answering. Timmy, why is my Swiss account empty? Chief's voice crackled with barely contained rage. Temi spun slowly in her chair, facing the framed photo on her desk. A father-daughter portrait from her graduation, her face now deliberately scratched out. You noticed? Good. Now you know how I felt when you gave Bimpy's son my shares. She terminated the call mid-outburst and sealed the USB in an envelope addressed to Lola. Her pen hovered as she considered a note, then simply wrote, "He gave her $20 million. He gave you a funeral. The math is simple. Still here, hit the subscribe button, lovely." The blood on the passport had dried to a deep burgundy, cracking at the edges where Emika's fingers pressed too hard. Temi remained motionless in her leather chair, her face an impassive mask. The Lagos night hummed outside her floor-to-ceiling windows, the city's endless energy pulsing in time with her quickening heartbeat. She knew Emeka's games, the adopted son from London who appeared every few years like a bad penny, always when family drama reached its peak. But this time, he'd brought more than just his smug smile and designer suits. "You're supposed to be handling the UK acquisitions," Temi said, keeping her voice steady. Emika's grin widened as he tossed the passport onto her glass desk. It slid across the smooth surface, leaving a faint smear of reddish brown. "And you're supposed to be Daddy's perfect heir. Yet here we are." Temi forced herself to look down. The passport was Nigerian, its green cover worn at the corners. The name was obscured by blood, but the photograph beneath the plastic laminate was unmistakable. Chief Adebanjo, 20 years younger, his eyes already holding that calculating glint she knew so well. "Open it," Emeka urged, perching on the edge of her desk. Her fingers hesitated for only a second before prying apart the stiff, blood-caked pages. The visa stamps told their own story, Lagos to Cotonou, dated 2 days before Chief's very public funeral. A chill crawled up Temi's spine. "Fascinating, isn't it?" Emeka tapped a finger against the passport. "Our dear father had this made years ago. A precaution, he called it, but someone else got to it first." Temi flipped to the back pages. More blood, and a single, perfectly round bullet hole piercing through the center. "The real question," Emeka leaned in close, his cologne something expensive and woody filling her space, "is who was he planning to disappear, and why did someone beat him to it?" A sharp knock at the door shattered the tension. "Madam Temi," her assistant's voice filtered through the thick wood. "Pastor Nike is here. She says it's an emergency." Emeka threw his head back and laughed, the sound echoing off the penthouse walls. "The vultures are circling earlier than expected." Timmy snapped the passport shut and slid it into her desk drawer, just as the door swung open. The woman who entered bore little resemblance to the composed spiritual leader from television. Pastor Nike's usually immaculate head wrap sat askew, her designer blouse wrinkled, and her eyes wide with something close to panic darted between Temi and Emeka. "They are gone," she gasped, clutching a tablet to her chest. "All the accounts, the church funds, the charity donations emptied overnight." Temi didn't react, but Emeka's laughter redoubled, rich with delight. "Oh, sister," he managed between chuckles, wiping imaginary tears from his eyes. "You really have been busy, haven't you?" The pastor's gaze snapped to Temi. "You did this?" Before Temi could respond, her phone buzzed with an alert. She glanced at the screen, a notification from her banking app. A single line of text. "Transaction complete, $20 million, New Life Megachurch." Her blood ran cold. She hadn't authorized this. Emeka, still grinning, pulled his own phone from his pocket. "Oh, this just gets better. Daddy's awake." He turned the screen toward them, a live security feed showing Chief Adebanjo, very much alive, storming through the halls of the family estate. And he didn't look happy. Enjoyed this tale? Please subscribe. What do you think happened next? Why did the chief fake his own death? Who are you rooting for? Temi, Emeka, the chief? If you are still with me, thank you for watching this tale. Please hit the subscribe button, turn on the notification bell, and share with your friends. When Temi traces the missing millions, she uncovers Pastor Nike's shocking connection to the Lagos underworld and why the church accounts were really drained. Meanwhile, Chief's return from the dead sets off a chain reaction no one could have predicted. What do you think happened next? Why did the chief fake his own death? Who are you rooting for? Temi? Emeka, the chief? If you are still with me, thank you for watching this tale. Please hit the subscribe button, turn on the notification bell, and share with your friends. The elevator door slid shut, sealing Temi inside with the stench of Pastor Nike's panic. The pastor's fingers clutched at her gold cross necklace, the metal links biting into her skin as the numbers descended. Temi watched the digital display tick downward. You have exactly 30 seconds to explain why my father funneled $20 million into your church accounts. Nike's laugh came out shrill. You think this is about money? Oh, child, you don't know what game you're playing. The elevator dinged at the parking level. Temi grabbed Nike's wrist before the doors fully opened. Try me. The security feed on Temi's phone showed Chief already in the lobby upstairs, his security detail shoving reporters aside. She had maybe 5 minutes before he reached them. Nike yanked her arm free. Your father didn't give us that money. We earned it. She swiped open her tablet, pulling up transaction records. See these dates? Every payment coincides with a special service. Temi scanned the records. July 12th, $500,000, the day after the oil minister's scandal disappeared from the news. September 3rd, $1.2 million, the night before the Port Authority approved Adebanjo Holdings' controversial expansion. A cold realization settled in Temi's gut. You're not a church. You're a laundering operation. Cleaning money is easy. Nike's smile turned predatory. We clean reputations, problems, the kind that can't just disappear into an offshore account. Headlights flared as a black SUV screeched to a halt in front of them. The window rolled down to reveal Emeka at the wheel. Family reunion starts in 3 minutes. Either get in or become collateral. Temi shoved Nike toward the car. As they peeled out of the garage, her phone buzzed with an incoming video call. Lola's face filled the screen. Turn on the news, her mother said without preamble. The live broadcast showed their family estate swarming with police. A reporter's voice crackled through. Breaking news! Documents leaked tonight allege Chief Adebanjo's involvement in the 1999 disappearance of... Lola muted the feed. That USB you sent me? It contained more than bank records. Your father didn't just fake his death. He's been covering up murders for decades. Nike made a choked sound. Emeka's knuckles whitened on the steering wheel, but Temi's attention locked on the timestamp in the video's corner. December 12th, 1999. Lagos, 12th, 12th, 99. The pieces clicked together with terrifying clarity. You knew, Temi accused Nike. That's what your special services really were. Not just covering up scandals, burying bodies. The pastor's silence confirmed everything. Emeka took a sharp turn toward the harbor. Change of plans. We're not running from Daddy anymore. He tossed a gun into Temi's lap. We're ending this. What do you think happened next? Drop me a comment, share with your friends, and see you in the next episode.